Is there any underrated metric in studio that you think most people don't know about?
The most underrated one that I'd identify is...
Are there any plans for A/B title testing?
Imagine analytics that are supported by AI.
What are your thoughts on giving any sort of control to creators over who their impressions go out to?
That's really one of the biggest questions.
Is YouTube working on anything to help smaller creators get discovered?
So it is intentionally meant for emerging creators.
I wonder if that will become a new CTA. Like, subscribe, and... Today I'm talking with YouTube's VP of Creator Products, Amjad Hanif. He's the man behind YouTube Analytics, A/B thumbnail tests, retention graphs, and everything else within YouTube Studio. In this conversation, we covered your most asked questions about A/B testing, how to make the most out of your YouTube Analytics, how small creators can get discovered, and so much more. Here's the conversation with Amjad. So I'm going to start by asking you the most asked question I received when preparing for this conversation, which is, we've had A/B thumbnail testing for a while, but it's often said that titles and thumbnails are a package to tell the story of the video. So are there any plans for A/B title testing in the future?
Well, we're working on it. Folks have asked for it quite a bit. And sometimes the request is actually, can we just help them come up with better titles? So we're thinking about title suggestions, but we're also thinking about ways to test it. I definitely know that creators spend a lot of time wordsmithing those few words because they mean a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Especially because sometimes if you have different thumbnail concepts, you might have a different title in mind for each of those concepts if they're different enough.
Makes sense. Those words are the ones that folks see when they're making a choice. From the way we think about it in our team, we want to make sure we create tools that will save creators time. And so that's definitely a time saver. We just haven't figured out quite how we're going to do it.
Well, hey, it's excited that it's somewhere maybe in the roadmap coming in the future that we can look forward to. Let's talk about what we do have, which is A/B thumbnail testing. So I know that it was in the works, in development for years, and now it's finally out. We finally have access to it. And now that it's been out for some time, kind of from your side, how has it been going? Are you happy with the results so far?
Yeah, I'm personally really happy with it, but the best judge of that are the creators, and creators have been really happy for two reasons. One, it helps them make smarter decisions about the thumbnails they choose, but also saves them a lot of time and guesswork from trying to pick which thumbnail is going to work with their audience.
Let's talk downsides and potential pitfalls of A/B thumbnail testing, because I know that there was some worry going in that it would be more useful for larger creators versus smaller creators.
I've heard creators say that. I've actually always thought the opposite, and I'll tell you why. The larger creators have a team of designers, they have a team of analysts, and they actually have a good system already for figuring out what's working and what's not. And for a smaller creator, they really do need the analytics that come with something like this to figure it out, because they don't actually have a team trying to figure that out for them. Now, it is true that you do need to have a decent-sized audience in order to have statistically significant results. But beyond that, I actually think it's a bigger win for the smaller creators than the larger ones.
There's a lot of curiosity when it comes to that statistically significant piece. Kind of what percentage difference would you say is enough so that a creator looking at it, if it's like 33.1%, 33.5%, at what point is it enough to be able to definitively say, this thumbnail is the better one?
It's a great question. We will tell you in the test results if we think it's statistically significant. Then we'll also tell you if we think it's close but not quite significant. And so it'll be really clear. You don't need to remember a certain number or do some guesswork, because at the end of the test, we'll tell you if we think the results are significant. Part of that, though, is one of the things we've learned is sometimes creators test things that are really similar. If you just have like different shades of blue in 3 different thumbnails, you're not really going to see a difference. And so our best advice for creators is to try things that are pretty different, and you're more likely to get statistically significant results from something that is a dramatic difference than something that's very subtle. If it's very subtle, most viewers are not going to really show you a direction.
100%. So for anyone out there, do not just change the t-shirt color and call it a day.
Yes. Good advice.
Going more into this with the results. So there's a lot of curiosity as to the specific metric that was chosen to be shown for test and compare. I was wondering if you could give some more insight into why watch time share? And is there any plans to show other metrics in the future, like click-through rate, for instance?
Yeah, it's probably the number one request that we get is to change the decision criteria to be based on click-through rate. And we didn't allow that for a very specific reason because, to be successful with your content, it's really about the watch time, and it's really about the promise that thumbnail has and whether that translates into the watch time, and it effectively conveys what the viewer is going to see. And you can get a really high click-through rate, but it may not actually translate to watch time, and so we didn't want creators to focus on that number because that's not really success for your content. So the tool is based on watch time, and the winner is chosen based on the total watch time difference. And that's really what my best advice is for creators to focus on versus the click-through rate. It's really easy to get a really high click-through rate that doesn't actually translate into something sustainable.
Okay, so for now, we'll just keep an eye on the watch time share?
Yeah, keep an eye on the watch time share. And maybe the other thing to say that we've learned from creators over the last year is that creators will often see a thumbnail perform really well in the first few weeks, and then things change a bit as your fans have seen it and viewed it, and then now you're attracting new fans. And different thumbnails may play better for different audiences. And so that's actually something to keep in mind, that the one that wins in that first month may not actually be the one that wins a few months later.
To that point, so we have retention now broken up between new and returning viewers. Is that something that's intended to be shown for things like click-through rate in the future?
Yeah, it's something that I know is really important for creators to understand, is these different cohorts of viewers. And so we do plan to invest a lot over the next year in showing creators different cuts of the data based on cohorts, from your brand new users to your original fans to folks in between.
100%. That's super exciting, because I know that there's a lot of thought about, now raw subscriber count is starting to mean less and less over time. And there's a lot of, thought about, is there a way to gauge what your own loyal fans or true fans, what that number is within the larger subscriber count?
Yeah, that's, I think, as the creator economy has grown and as the number of formats have grown, and creators have been around now for years, that's really one of the biggest questions. Is you've got folks that love your podcast but never watch anything else, viewers that discovered you in shorts and are exploring your long-form catalog, and we want to create a set of metrics in Studio that allows you to understand these different elements of your audience. I think years ago it was just sort of one audience, but as you can tell now, it's emerged into multiple audiences, and I think creators need to understand those better to be able to target them better with their content.
Are there any ways that the segmentation is we can start to see in Studio? I heard maybe in the briefing something's coming to the comments tab and kind of where we can see that.
So comments tab has a bunch of new improvements. It'll be for starters, it's going to be the community tab, and it's really going to represent your community as a whole. We'll have a set of metrics that help you understand what's happening in your community, a way to see some of the top comments that have come recently, an easy way to reply to comments. For creators that have thousands of followers, it's sometimes hard to keep up with all those comments. There's also a community spotlight to see some of the most active members of your community.
I love that. I think that's going to be super useful, so you can start to know, as opposed to remembering, oh yeah, I think I saw this name in the last video.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things once you've built that audience and that community, trying to keep up and engage with them. And creators all want to do it, and so our responsibility as a part of the Studio team is to build the tools to make that so much easier for creators to do.
On the concept of audience and community, I'm going to ask you a, trickier question.
Okay.
Which is, a lot of creators have the desire to influence in some way who their videos are shown to, especially if they look into their audience demographics and see, oh, this is different from the target audience that I have in mind, especially when they're newer. What are your thoughts on giving any sort of control to creators over who their impressions go out to?
I think it's a really tricky concept to do in practice. I mean, YouTube, our mission is really connecting the globe and sharing your voice, not just with those folks that you've selected, but an audience of billions of people. And I think there's no real way to create control to creators that allows them to segment certain demographics. I fear that if we were to create a control like that, we'd actually end up creating control that hurts creators in the long run. Some of the most interesting things I've seen is creators discovering new audiences they never would have guessed, either new markets and new regions, new demographics based on the content they've created. And I think that's the beauty of YouTube, is this ability for people all across the globe to discover the content. And so I don't imagine a control like that that would be in the best interest of creators or viewers.
Yeah, I think that I also agree with you on that sense. I think that it can be frustrating for especially like newer, smaller creators if they just have a couple of videos out and you're like, why is this going to this body of people when in my head it should go to this body of people? But I do think that, over time, YouTube is very good at what it does. And, even if, you're quote unquote seeing the wrong audience in the beginning, it might switch later on as you make more and more videos.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really good point, and it's especially true for creators earlier in their career. Understanding the analytics that are in studio, understanding the demographic sections, and to really get a sense of who's watching and how long they're watching for and what kinds of content. Like that's so critical to understanding where your content is performing well and where you think you have opportunities. Sometimes it's a little intimidating. There's a lot of numbers there and a lot of charts, and as a team, we want to make that much more accessible, and we're working on ways to do that. But that's gold when it comes to a new creator trying to find their audience and connect with a group of people.
Let's dig into that more specifically, because you're so spot on that, there's so much data available to you, which on one side, thank you. There's so much more here versus like on TikTok or Instagram or anything else. But as a newer creator, you might go into that and think, holy cow, there's so much here. So, what are kind of the main key metrics or data points that you would advise people to look at maybe when they're early on or even when they're more advanced to help inform actual action?
Yeah, I mean, what I always tell folks is the first screen when you go into analytics, it's all about these key metrics around the views and the watch time and your subs. It's way at the top in the overview section, and those are sort of your baseline or core health metrics of your channel, and you want to look at those, how they're performing in the recent past, but there's an easy way to look at the past year, and you want to make sure that it's moving in the direction that you'd expect it to, which is to be growing. The next area that I personally spend a lot of time on is in the demographics, because understanding who's watching, where they're coming from, what kinds of content they're interacting with, gives you a sense of the folks that are your loyal audience and are coming back, and helps you shape the content that you'll produce over the next few months.
Is there any underrated metric or piece of data in studio that you think most people don't know about?
Maybe I'd say the most underrated one that I'd identify is there's a card around the demographics or country or regions that your viewers are coming from. A lot of folks focus a lot on their country of origin or where they're based out of. But there's amazing opportunity to grow your audience in the next 5 markets where you have a following. And maybe that means you need to do translations in a different language. Maybe part of your content strategy is visiting a few of those markets and doing something within market to grow that audience. But sometimes I think folks just miss out that opportunity in an adjacent country or a country where you have a large following that you may be surprised by.
Translations in another language. I know that it's been like a very hot topic moving forward. Is that something that creators can expect to get access to?
Yeah, one of the features we're excited to announce at the event is auto dubbing. And with very little effort, it's a setting that you adjust inside Studio. You'll be able to get automatic dubbing for your future uploads in multiple languages. And it'll work really naturally within YouTube so that your viewers who are in these other countries are able to seamlessly see your content. And what I love about it is for very little effort, a creator is able to expand their audience and reach a new set of viewers and build their business in a way that you couldn't have imagined 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be a really big one for a lot of creators because, yes, there are like third-party tools that can do this, but they're often expensive or just like a lot to keep track of versus something that might not have 100% accuracy, but be good enough to have some sort of tangible impact. I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, what I also like about it is, and part of the way we've built this from the very start is it's both English into these other languages, but you can also go in the other direction as well. And so I think the opportunity for creators in some of these other markets that didn't have access to English-speaking viewers because of a language barrier will now be able to take advantage of that too.
Okay, let's switch gears to talk about one of the most, I'd say, critical aspects of video creation, which is coming up with ideas that not only apply to and satisfy your existing audience, but can also have some sort of appeal to a broad, potentially new audience. And one place in which creators can start to get these ideas is the inspiration tab. And I was really curious as to where the ideas in inspiration tab come from. Like where does YouTube get those ideas? What are they based off of?
Good question. Inspiration tab is something we talked about a year ago. We're excited today to announce a bunch of new improvements to it. That data comes from everything we know about the viewers on YouTube and the things that they search for. And so we'll recommend ideas where there's a lot of search volume, where maybe there isn't a lot of content. That's part of those ideas that we surface in inspiration. And then part of our announcement is we will go a step further and help you come up with a title and help you come up with a thumbnail, help you come up with an outline and some starters to the script so you can get out of that blank sheet of paper and start thinking about what your next creation is.
Why the emphasis on what your audience is searching for versus kind of like what else they are watching that they don't search for, especially when it comes to creators who maybe don't have educational channels. So maybe their audience isn't really searching for things so much as landing on YouTube and clicking something that appears on their homepage.
It's a mix of both of those, actually. It's both things that people are looking for, but it's also that intersection between your own audience and the things that they're most interested in. And something that surprised creators a lot of time is that they have their audience that they've built has these other interests that are very adjacent. And it's a great way for you to tap into a shared set of interests that may not be necessarily your primary interests and create content that taps into that viewer base. That's the idea behind the Inspiration tab. It's sort of your creative partner that helps you think outside of your core focus area and come up with new things to work on.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to check out the new Inspiration tab and poke around that.
We are really excited about it too. Probably the most interesting thing about it is this ability to just riff on ideas, rely on Gemini to be that creative partner, and to be able to have a backlog of ideas. So for that moment when you're ready to go into production, you've got a set of ideas saved up, you've already worked out an outline and some creative starters, and you can just go right into production.
So it sounds like a lot of this is starting to be more based on AI, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I'm sure, AI has kind of been like the buzzword for a while, and I'm sure that you get pitched so many AI use cases. How do you decide which projects are, worth pursuing and bringing into reality?
We do get pitched on a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of excitement in AI. For my team and for where I'm focused, I am really trying to build tools that help creators with their existing workflow on creation. And so if we can develop tools that save them time, so more of that time goes into their passion and their creativity and the content, then I think that's a win for the ecosystem. It's a win for viewers, creators, as well as YouTube. And so that's where the Inspiration tab comes in. If we can save that time in that ideation phase, then more of that time goes into actually creating that amazing content. That's where our thinking around auto-dubbing comes in. If we can make it easy for you with a few clicks to get it translated in multiple languages, then you're not spending all that time messing with a third party or doing manual dubbing. It just happens automatically in the viewer's benefit, creators, and the ecosystem as well.
I think that's huge because there's a lot of fear around AI, and that, fear for creators around like AI is going to come in and it'll, we have to make videos with AI, and where does our creative voice go and our creative vision? I think that what you're saying is a really great way to still lead with your own vision and voice and style, but have AI come in and help with that.
Yeah. Creators are always going to be the center of YouTube. And that content and that passion that goes into what they produce is what viewers are coming for. Viewers haven't written to us saying, hey, we want more AI. They really want the storytelling, the narrative, like that amazing entertainment and educational content. And it'll just be easier to do that with AI. You'll get the support and the workflow that you need. Imagine analytics that are based or supported by AI where we can tell you what's happening. It'll make your job as a creator easier, so more of that energy goes into the stuff that viewers love.
I'm really excited to hear you say that, because that's another thing that I was asked so much when preparing for this conversation was, well, AI exists. Can we at some point expect, there's so much available in studio, AI insights to come in and help us parse what takeaways we can get from studio?
Yeah, it's a great idea, and we'd love to develop something like that. The thing there's probably two things that are in the back of our mind as we build products like that. Is one, we want it to be easy for folks to use, but more importantly, we want it to be accurate. Like, you can get a model and an AI system to generate conclusions and give you ideas, but they actually have to be accurate. And so that's the quality bar that we also have in mind. But keep an eye out for exciting things to come.
Oh my gosh, that's very exciting to hear. Kind of keeping within studio, there's this concept of much of the YouTube algorithm can be distilled into kind of the click with CTR, watch time, AVD, but also this kind of mystery metric called satisfaction, which is the one that, at least within studio, we have the least visibility into. Is there any plans on getting some sort of visible metric of satisfaction into studio?
There aren't any plans. I think what makes it hard sometimes is satisfaction is a tricky number. Like, it'd be great to have one number that answers everything, but across multiple formats, multiple age groups and demographics, I think it's tough to really come up with a single metric that gives you a sense of satisfaction with the content. Where our energy is going into is really helping you slice the different groups. Maybe once we've done that and given you different demographics and cohorts, there's a way to identify satisfaction amongst those different cohorts.
That makes sense. I think the slicing is the part that I personally am most excited for. It's just so exciting to go into studio and be like, okay, you actually have control over seeing each of these metrics, because, to your point, it's someone, who's age 18 might feel differently about a video versus someone who's 55, male or female, where in the world they are, all of these things, new or returning viewer, they can all view a piece of content differently.
Yeah, and you may try out a new content strategy, and you'll want to know how some of your original fans react to it. In most creators' careers, there's this moment where they want to shift their content strategy and bring their audience along, and sometimes it's hard to tell if you're able to do that without the right metrics. So that's kind of the thinking behind that.
Let's talk about new creators. Okay. One of the, biggest complaints that I often hear about the platform is that, man, it's super hard to gain traction as a brand new creator who doesn't have the benefit of a massive existing audience, or someone who maybe has been creating videos for a while and they're making good enough videos, but they still haven't, quote unquote, hit the algorithm yet. So is YouTube working on anything to help smaller creators get discovered?
Yeah, well, I should say first off, smaller creators get discovered every day, and YouTube is amazing, and the viewers keep coming back because there's always fresh, interesting content and new creators to be discovered. And so that's something that we always keep in the back of our mind. But one of the new products that we announced today is a way to hype some of the most interesting creators you've discovered. We realize that anytime you know something, you've discovered something, whether it's a restaurant or a new song, and you're excited about it, you want to share that with everyone, and you want to let other folks know about this amazing find you've had. And that's kind of the thinking behind hype. It's a way to add hype points to creators you've discovered. In order to get those points, those creators have to be under 500,000 subs, so it is intentionally meant for emerging creators. And there's a leaderboard to see all the creators that have been hyped. I think we were live in 3 markets for about 4 weeks, in Brazil, Turkey, and Taiwan just a few weeks back. And just in those 4 weeks, we had 5 million hypes. So there's a lot of excitement around bringing visibility to emerging creators.
Have you seen a lot of, what the results of that hype has been? Like, have the creators with the most hype seen a large, increase in views?
It's too early to tell. It's literally a few weeks ago. I can tell you the creators that have gotten those hypes are really excited and feel like this is an opportunity for them to get discovered. And so they're encouraging their fans to continue hyping and sharing the word.
I wonder if that will become a new CTA, like, subscribe, and hype.
Yeah, and smash the bell.